Taylor Rehmet, Democratic candidate for State Senate District 9. Thank you so much and welcome back to Eye on Politics.
Thank you so much, Jack. Happy to be back.
Good to see you. So you're in this runoff now against Republican Lee Wambsgans. How energized are Democrats to get out and vote?
Well, I think they're very energized. I mean, you know, with a campaign, you can't always measure the energy, but you can feel it. And we feel the energy for our campaign and this election every single day. We're seeing that Democrats and some folks from the Republican side are energized about getting something different out of their Senate district.
And let me ask you, because on Election Day itself the last time, you had more votes than the two Republicans combined. Now, obviously, total votes they had more, but I'm wondering, how did you accomplish that? And what does that say now about this race?
What it says is that, you know, voters are energized for what my campaign is talking about, which is affordability. It's about, you know, meeting people where they're at. That's our campaign strategy, is talking with voters and listening to them instead of talking about them. And this is what this is all about, you know, going out there, block walking, talking with voters at their doors or on the phones, calling undecided voters and really listening to what their concerns are. I think that, you know, why we have so much enthusiasm for this campaign is we are doing the work, and, you know, we were outspent, but we weren't outworked, and it pays off.
And what are you doing specifically? You talked a little bit about it, door knocking, et cetera, to make sure that these folks, your supporters, get out and vote for you. And if you are to win, what would that say just about this race?
So when it comes to door knocking, I mean, that's what we've centered this around is, you know, we have volunteers, people that are feeling more energized than others and wanting to volunteer their own time on the weekend, during the week, to get our message out there that we want, you know, our public schools fully funded, that they want our affordability crisis to be addressed, and they want folks like my own parents to retire with dignity and respect and not be crushed by the rising costs of living, especially, you know, property taxes.
So those are the three top concerns that your supporters are telling you.
Yes.
And so how would you like to address that? You talked a lot about affordability. So what exactly does that mean? What policies do you want to try to enact? And if you are elected, how do you do that in a Republican-controlled Senate?
Well, I mean, policy-wise, we can look, for instance, that before, historically, the state paid a lot more on our schools' maintenance and operations. And if you have the, you know, the proper funding, right, from the state, it would help our local property taxes get lowered. And you look at industries like, you know, hemp and stuff like that, we could easily use that tax to fund our schools. It's been done in other states successfully. And, you know, we as Texans need to be concerned about the next generation of Texans. So to me, it just seems like a no-brainer, you know. So, and as far as, what was the other part of that?
Well, as far as the affordability, so you said some other things in there about property tax, and I'll get to that, in schools. But as far as the affordability, what are people telling you is unaffordable for them? And that's what I'm wondering. How do you solve that? What is your plan to solve that?
Absolutely. Well, you know, for instance, we have rising costs of living, and that is what the affordability is based around. You know, it's making corporations pay their fair share. I mean, they get subsidies. I mean, just again, going back to property taxes, one of the biggest ones that affects rent, that affects, you know, homeowners, and that's something we all share. So if you look at the subsidies they get for their projects and all these things, you know, someone's got to pay that cost, and it turns out it's the homeowners.
And so I know that the state has lowered property taxes, school property taxes. to contribute more state money to fund public schools and take the ease off.
Yeah.
And Republican leaders are saying they want to do more. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, there's ways, like I stated before, there's ways we can do it. And it does talk, you said it was a Republican, majority. That just means we have to actually communicate on the issues we want to focus on. And that means primarily for the working Texans who I would, want to champion their issues first.
And you mentioned fully funding public schools. Are they not fully funded now?
It's not even just about the fully funding, right? I mean, it's a multifaceted issue, and you look at our schools, right? When they're, getting the maintenance and operation not paid, right, from the state, we are seeing those property taxes increase. If we fully fund these schools, that means that these teachers' classrooms are not 40 plus kids in a classroom. They're not paying for school supplies out of their own pockets, so it will take Republicans and Democrats to have a real serious talk about this issue and getting the supplies to these schools, getting these classroom sizes down so that they can have the performance and not be, taken over by the state like in Houston and here in Fort Worth.
And what do you make of the fact that some schools, local schools, are being shut down by a lot of these school districts across the area?
I believe there's some talk and correlation regarding, the opening of a bunch of charter schools, and it could take away from that population to where they do need to be shut down, according to what they're saying. But it's an issue that I'm still looking into.
And I know in one of the more recent polls from University of Texas Politics Project in December showed that most Texans, the biggest concern they have is health care.
Yes.
And so how would you like to see that addressed in the state of Texas?
Yes, I would love to see us, Democrats and Republicans come together and talk about that, because we have people in Fort Worth that are choosing between rent or food and their cancer treatment. I mean, this is a big problem. So I think if we can, work together on this, we could maybe even have some kind of, relief or, subsidy for, Texans that are dealing with serious illnesses.
And I know that Democrats in the past have advocated for increasing Medicaid, expanding Medicaid in the state of Texas. Republican leaders have said no. What's your thought about this?
Well, that would be a great start. A lot needs to be done here. If you even think about like the hospital districts we have, getting that increase in Medicaid would actually lower the property taxes in those hospital districts. So again, it comes back to that affordability. It comes back to it's all encompassing to where we need to make sure that we have the federal support for giving the best opportunities for our constituents.
The state is in the process right now, going back to education for a minute. The state is putting together this Education Freedom Accounts program, school choice, taxpayer funded program allowing students to attend private school. Where are you on that issue?
Well, Jack, I am totally against it. I think that, I'm a product of public schools, and I know they work and I know they're great. These private schools, they get to pick and choose which students they take. And public schools accept any kid that walks through the door, even the ones that are more expensive to educate. And I think that's great. I think that we need to, focus more on the public schools and making them better, because we do rank low. But that fact that we're giving public dollars to private organizations that can deny kids entry, even if you have a voucher. So that's a problem. There needs to be much more regulation on this. It really should just go away completely, and we should, focus on other ways we can increase our schools. But, it's enshrined. Public education in Texas is enshrined in our Constitution. So we have to stick to our Texas Constitution and our duty to serve in increasing public school education for these kids.
The Republicans, I don't see this, now that this bill is passed, I don't see it changing. So what are you going to be looking for in this program? Because it's going to roll, it's in the process of being developed, it's going to roll out and start in the fall for this year, for the next school year. So what are you going to be looking for?
Well, I mean, like I said earlier, I want to make sure that even kids that get this voucher that are expensive to educate aren't being rejected. I want to make sure that it's fair and equitable.
Parents are the ones who select the schools, so they're the ones who select. Now, yes, I've heard the criticism that the schools, don't have to accept the kids.
It's a large criticism.
And so, what do you want to change with that?
Well, what I'd like to change is kind of what I said before. I would look at, I mean, I don't even want to operate in the framework of what they're doing, but if I had to, it would be serious regulation and oversight, because I don't think public dollars should just be funneled to private schools. I would rather see us, focus on what's already been working in Texas that, to me, can be great.
And are there any other issues that are on your radar that you think, if you get to the Capitol, that you want to address?
Absolutely. One of the things that I really think we need to address is campaign finance in our state. There is no individual contribution limit. You noticed from the campaign finance prior, I had 2 candidates that I was going against that were funded by 2 separate billionaires. I think that that's wrong. I think that it, really makes it hard for grassroots and local folk to get elected organically. And I also think there should be term limits. I think that's something that would be great to see. I mean, I don't want to make a career out of being a senator, okay? I want to serve just like I did in the U.S. military, and then I want to live my life after. It should be a service, not a career.
And so, do you have any ideas as far as what the term limits would be?
I haven't. I've been drinking from a fire hose here. From a fire hose here. I have a lot of issues that I'm very passionate about, right? But if I were to say 3 to 4 terms, something like that. I mean, it's something we don't have to come together as legislators and talk in the legislature and legislators. We'd have to talk about this. I really think that. To build that trust with Texans, we need to, have term limits and campaign finance so that we are, regulated. And I think there's nothing wrong with that. I think that's honest.
And let me go back and ask you one other question, and that was what I asked you before. If you are to win this election, what would it say about this race, and what implications could there be statewide, if any?
This would mean something big, in my opinion. I know that there's so many folks out here that feel like they've been left behind. Working folks that, get up early, clock in and leave late. And I think that whenever I'm elected, that they will feel like they have real representation. But the bigger thing is that it could be a domino that goes and shows other folks that, hey, you can grassroots, and organically run for office and get elected in this state. I think that's a huge message to have. I think that more folks should run for office, especially veterans. I think that right there is the overarching theme. If we're going to zoom out, I think that's what we're looking at.
Taylor Rehmet, Democratic candidate for State Senate District 9. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We appreciate it.